to respond to the justice needs.
House of Representatives to set up a technical advisory committee on the condition and safety of aircraft in the presidential air fleet.
Our position in the global policy, we need something that will represent our image.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss new minimum wage saga, way out, plus building capacity for public speaking.
A new minimum wage for workers has been in the front line of national discourse for months. The struggle for a living wage has been a long and arduous one for Nigerian workers, with many facing extreme hardship due to the country's inadequate minimum wage.
Maybe I should ask you, what has been your experience? You're a senior colleague as a civil servant. How's the struggle been?
I shall ask you.
I'm much younger, so the suffering has been...
Well, like they say, I mean, they believe that we are, you know, a bit above the ladder. We should be more comfortable than you guys.
All right. You said it all, so maybe I should just stay on what you have said. The Nigerian government actually established the Minimum Wage Act, setting the minimum wage at 125 naira, approximately around $0.3 US per month. And in 1990, labor unions and workers began advocating for an increase in the minimum wage due to rising inflation and cost of living.
That's true, Henry. From protests to negotiations, the story of minimum wage in Nigeria since 1999. From 2,000 naira, the minimum wage was reviewed upwards to 5,500 and 7,500 under the Obasanjo administration.
And in 2011, the minimum wage was reviewed upwards to 18,000 naira. And that was in the Good Luck Jonathan administration. And in 2019, the minimum wage was reviewed upward to 30,000 naira.
Well, the Nigerian government announced this year that a new minimum wage regime will come into force on April 1st, 2024. The
wage, which is not only mandated by the Constitution, but also due to the removal of fuel subsidy. And if you like, you can add electricity subsidy also.
You can say that again.
You're a Bande consumer. How's it been paying your bills?
Then let's go there. But I think it's better now. It's better now. On May 1st, 2024, Nigerian workers anxiously looked forward to the announcement of the new minimum wage, but that did not happen, as we were told that the tripartite committee had not arrived at a new minimum wage.
Shockingly, on Wednesday, 15th of May, the organized labor rejected 48,000 naira national minimum wage that the federal government proposed for Nigerian workers. President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joseph Ajaero, and Deputy President of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Tomi Okon, made this known to newsmen in Abuja after representatives of the organized labor walked out of the tripartite National Minimum Wage Committee meeting.
That's really a serious issue, you know.
Very serious.
How would they be able to now resolve the issue?
Nobody are issued. There's news that the federal government is calling them back on the table.
Anyway, they said the proposal brought forward by the representatives of the government fell short of the needs and aspiration of workers. The labor leaders have given government 2 weeks to reconsider its position and come back to the negotiating table with a wage that reflects current realities in the country.
Current realities, of course, that's really broad. Now, the organized labor is proposing 615,000 naira national minimum wage, which it says is based on evidence and data it collected. And of course, listening to labor leaders, they say that 615,000 will probably take care of a family with 4 children, a man and a wife with 4 children.
How realistic would that be for government to be able to pay that? Anyway, that we'll be able to discuss. One question remains: will the government finally heed the call of its citizens and implement a wage that reflects the true value of their labor. As the Tripartite Committee reconvenes today, will the committee conclude and arrive at a minimum wage that will be acceptable to both labor and government? Our guests are standing by to provide answers. Welcome to the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
Of course, the minimum wage is not all we'll be talking about today, Ademola, in as much as I would have loved it to be the only topic, because we need to dissect and, of course, make known what we feel as workers. But we'll also be discussing about building capacity for public speaking, and that's in the second part of the program. I'm Henry John. I also joined my colleague, my senior colleague, I must say, who I should say congratulations to for attaining the new level in the civil service. Of course.
Thank you.
I'm sure there will be so much to drink and eat today. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. Let's get on to bring you all that we've got package for you. It's a swell package, I must tell you. Chukudi is already around, can hear him. Of course, newspaper review will be hitting you. I got Zenret looking really good this morning. Zenret, what's the latest in the news? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ian Ray and Ademola. And here's the morning news. The Media and Publicity Subcommittee of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's first anniversary has released the first phase of the timetable for activities lined up to mark the event. The first anniversary schedule of events is expected to begin on Wednesday, 22nd May 2024, with a World Press Conference aimed at projecting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration's achievements and future plans. The World Press Conference will be held at the National Press Center, Radio House, Abuja at 10 a.m. Following this, sectoral updates focusing on each ministry's specific accomplishments and goals will continue until Friday, 24th May 2024. All briefing activities will be held at the National Press Center, Radio House, Abuja. Now, the Senate has engaged stakeholders on a bill which calls for a 300% salary increase for judicial officers at federal and state levels.
An attempt and an initiative to improve the lot of the judiciary to the benefit of the judiciary in particular and Nigerians in general.
A focus on judicial reform is not only about judicial remuneration. In consultation with the judiciary and other key stakeholders, we are also interested in ensuring a holistic review of our judicial system.
Meanwhile, the National Judicial Council is determined to empower judicial officers across the country for speedy dispensation of justice. This development is one of the low-hanging fruits of the just concluded National Summit on Justice. The latest effort is the induction course for the newly appointed judicial officers of the lower courts.
I assure you that you have joined the bench at a time where several notable reforms are being made and many challenges which the judiciary has faced over time are now being lightly addressed.
The House of Representatives has resolved to set up a technical advisory committee that will look into the condition and safety of aircrafts in the Presidential Air Fleet. The Chairman House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Ahmad Satomi, stated this after a meeting between members of the committee and the Commandant of the Presidential Air Fleet, as well as representatives of the Office of the National Security Advisor. The House resolves to investigate the state of the Presidential Air Fleet following media reports of an alleged faulty aircraft in the fleet.
We need something that will represent our image.
President Bola Tinubu extends condolences to the government and people of the Islamic Republic of Iran over the passing of President Ibrahim Raisi, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, and other officials in a helicopter crash. tragedy, describing President Raisi as a leader who was passionately committed to the development of Iran. While commiserating with the bereaved families, President Tinubu praised for continuous peace, stability and prosperity of the Iranian nation. On behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, the President assures the Islamic Republic of Nigeria's support and prayers in this moment of grief. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has appointed Vice President Mohammed Mokbar as acting president following the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash, as world leaders send in condolences. Those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Ienri after the commercial break. Please stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, it is a good thing to be Nigerian. Good news! The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is organizing the National Fabric Competition, the #One Nigeria Unity Fabric Competition. The aim is to create a fabric design that would be indigenous to Nigeria, showcasing our culture and unity. This competition is looking out for creativity, concept, and the message of unity. Open to Nigerian youths, both male and female, between the ages of 15 and 25 years. And guess what? You can apply wherever you are in the world as long as you are Nigerian. The winner of this competition goes home with a cash prize of 25 million naira. Are you sure I will not apply for this competition? Submission of entries close on Sunday, 30th of June 2024. Submit your entries by sending pictures of your designs via email to unityfabric.ofl24@statehouse.gov.ng, making sure you capture all parts of your designs. Together, let us unite Nigeria!
For an exclusive 3-time skin effect, try Nivea Men Deep powered by black carbon. For 48-hour deep moisture, a fresh skin feel, and a long-lasting masculine fragrance. Make an impact with Nivea Men Deep Impact Body Lotion. Try Nivea Men Deep Roll On for 72-hour antibacterial sweat protection.
We're live from the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, sir.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs. Oh, wow. Can you see that Epic is better than bleach?
You have to meet my best friend. She's the sweetest. Hey, check out my hair.
Which one? The one on your head or the one in the sink? Relax. Next time, just use the Mega Growth Anti-Damage Relaxer. It's infused with wonder oils and conditioning proteins for visibly less hair breakage after retouching. Now your hair looks great.
Thank you.
Mega Growth Anti-Damage No Light Cream Relaxer for visibly less hair breakage after retouching.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Something new is about to hit your imagination of TV. A brand new sundial with StarTime's inbuilt technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTime's antenna and satellite signal. StarTime Sundial TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTime's highest bouquet for free, automatic system update. More benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Sundial TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion. My country.
We continue to pray and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the revolution period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria. All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and that God has kept together as one indivisible entity.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. Next is newspaper review.
It's got a newspaper reviewer looking very different this morning. If you like, looking really boyish. Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja. Chooks the boy. Good to see you this morning. I'm very excited.
Wonderful commentary, my dear sister. Sometimes you got to learn to flaunt it. Being boyish is not something that drops just out from the blues like that. So we have to give some grace to God by showing it off sometimes. Demola, how are you doing?
Great. You look great, too.
You like this boy?
Yeah.
Thank you, my dear. The cap will return, but I just decided to flaunt it today.
It's good. Change is necessary.
Thank you, my dear.
All right, let's take a look at what the headlines have for us this morning. We'll begin with the leadership. And the leadership leads with this story. Chief Justice wants over poor salary for judges. Writer says Nigerians will bear the brunt. Federal government will not toil with welfare judiciary, and that's according to the minister. You want to find out which minister. Page 4 has all the details. Beside the picture story, we have Abuja Light Rail ready for commercial activities. That's according to Wike. We're not asking for the government for anything new. That's coming from ASU. Bochi airlifts 1,221 pilgrims to Saudi Arabia. Details on page 12. And Jonathan calls for ceasefire in Rivers crisis. Details on page 15. Away from that, we have oil prices spike expected over Iranian president's death. Of course, that's making headlines in different papers across the world at the moment. Away from all of that, above the masthead, we have U.S. government questions ICC arrest warrant for Netanyahu. And minimum wage, the big issue. We stand on May 31 ultimatum. That's according to Labour. Finally, this morning from the leadership, we have revenue profile. Reps threaten to block NDA's account. Details on page 11. All right, so that's it from the leadership. Let's see what the Daily Sun has got this morning. The lead story says Nigerian embassy owes £8.3 million congestion charges in London. Ranked 4th among UK's 48 foreign debtors since 2003. Ranked 4th among UK's 48 foreign debtors since 2003. Details on page 22. That will make an interesting read, I assure you. Beside the masthead, we have Labour gives federal government end of May to reverse electricity tariff hike, reiterates ultimatum on minimum wage. Away from that, the picture story is a sad one here. It's about, victims of the Gezawa Mosque terror attack, which happened yesterday. Gezawa mosque terror attack. The pictures are here, not so nice. I'm sure the details are in the paper. Away from that, below that picture story, we have AGF, NJC, Ramfak. Okay, 300% wage increase for judges, others. Honestly, this is good. Transcorp Power Post, all right. Away from that, we have Jonathan waiting to reverse crisis. Of course, that's already taken. And then we have finally this morning, varsities facing existential threats in Nigeria. ASU cries out. So that's it from the Daily Sun.
Okay, all right. I have the Nigerian pilots, and below the nameplates, Abuja Light Rail ready for operation, says FCT Minister. By the story, it's on page 7. Court rejects Nnamdi Kanu's fresh application for bail. Details can be found on page 6. And Jonathan calls for ceasefire. Rivers crisis. Jonathan calls for ceasefire. Says State Governor Fubara. FCT Minister Wike must work together for good of Rivers people. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Lokuberi woos UAE investors into Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Details on page 21. NAPTIP decries surge in baby factories across Nigeria. We can find that story on page 5. 47-year-old teacher backs life sentence for raping 7-year-old girl in Ogun State. So sad. The story is on page 7, and the minimum wage issue. We'll discuss that. Federal government financial outfit to lift 50 million Nigerians out of poverty. And President Tinubu, world leaders mourn Iranian president and foreign minister. Well, that's the front page of the pilot newspaper. Chooks.
Demola, let me start with something we have been talking about on this program, but we'll keep on talking about it because I don't see any appreciable action being taken so far. The Minister of the Environment, that's Balarabe Abbas Lawal, is warning that tree cover in Nigeria has dropped to 3.7%, far below the 25% recommended for ecological balance. And the minister is saying that this is due to logging and charcoal production. The other time I said here, the little farming we do, one of the people that helped me do some work there, Tanko, said, Oga, you know the good thing about this place? You don't need to begin to clear weeds. You just come, you begin to hoe and say, and you're happy the desert is coming. Nigeria should wake up to the fact that desertification is happening on a steady basis and it's moving south. Anyone who deludes themselves into thinking it's a northern thing, you just look at them. It's moving towards the river Niger. We must go back to tree planting and all that. It's very important.
We used to have that culture of those tree planting and government promoting it, and some weeks, days.
The East African countries still do that. Kenya, for instance,
we don't
Tanzania.
do that any longer.
We don't. There are many things we don't care about in this country, and we begin to ask, don't we know that the first law for the organism is to preserve its own life?
Yeah.
This should be taken seriously.
It should
I
be.
decided to lead with it because it is a very important issue. Very, very important.
I like this fact that the former president, being, a peaceful person, is calling for peace, ceasefire in Rivers State. I mean, you should expect that from him. Unlike other parties that will take sides, he's not taking sides.
No.
He's just appealing to them. He's just appealing to them. Look, for the sake of the Rivers people, let there be peace in Rivers State.
Jonathan, he's no longer president, but we must say whom he has been.
Peace-loving.
Is a dove, a peace-loving person, ready to concede to you certain things so that peace would reign. I said here the other time, one of the news analysis we wrote way back in Bendel Broadcasting Service in those days, Lala Ibueku was the one who did that piece. You know how he ended it? Those who fight to the finish usually end up finishing themselves.
They end up finished.
They end up finished. Those who fight to the finish usually end up finishing
Finished.
themselves. Rivers people, listen to that.
Yes.
You cannot all draw daggers at the same time. It is a virtue to say, I am submitting to this situation so that the world around can be peaceful. It doesn't make you a weakling. But we don't seem to understand it, on this axis of the earth a lot.
No, we
We
don't.
need to.
Actually, I told someone a few years ago, we usually have a lot of arguments, and after a while, after about 2-3 months, I just told her, I said, look, you know that most of the time you don't win the argument, I just allow you to be. He said, really? I said, yes, so that peace will reign. He said, I didn't know. I thought I won.
No, you diplomatically banish them from further sensible talk, which they could have endeavored.
So when you say them, I hope you're not referring to the female.
Well,
this is not a sexist
By the way,
I
arrangement.
intentionally did not mention.
Gender has no meaning.
Because I heard you, Demola, you said you told her, and then he said them. So I just want to get it
Well,
clear.
I did the generic, I did the them. So if you're taking up cudgels...
You know one thing, Chooks, you can't win an argument with a lady.
Oh, really?
You just have
you
to...
made up your mind.
It is not because you cannot win an argument with a lady, not because she's not smart enough to win the argument, but just because, women just have what it takes, in whatever field, whatever aspect, whether it's an argument, whether it's a fight, whether it's a meaningful discussion, whatever it is, women just top the game. Anyways, let me quickly mention what interests me in the papers today.
Cuts you off totally. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
What interests me today in the papers is this story about countdown to ASU strike.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting read.
And Labour is saying we stand by the
May 31, of course. So,
So the week we're going into is
a very tough week.
Oh, it's going to be a tough one.
It's a week of brickbats. But let them know that dialogue ends it at the end of the day. If a war usually ends in dialogue, peace, why don't men start it early enough and avert the war? Why do we shoot ourselves in the foot? Again, it goes to intransigence. Who are you? Do you know who I am? Who are you? Did you pay my children's school fees?
Wow.
Did you marry my wife for me? Did you build my house? Why should I be interested in who you are? It's an unfortunate statement on our climb, here.
Anyways, I just hope all of these issues
Anyway, before we shoot ourselves, I think it's time that we call it a day.
It's already time?
Yeah, it's time.
The Chief Justice is warning over poor salary for judges. He
But they
says
are getting 300%.
300%.
We are working it out.
Wage increase for judges. I envy them.
May it happen.
Chooks.
Yes.
Bye.
Who are you, Chooks?
We'll take a break now.
Who are you, Chooks, on this program?
I'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
A good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order. It is said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30-second video and a picture of the garden, which indicates its location, to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
Your life in the open market for Africa Next Challenge. My people, today now, I will will show you how the power of new Apic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so
Impossible.
toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Apic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
Can you see that Apic is better than bleach?
Dream family. Why did you guys choose the name Dream?
Because we wake up and we collect money.
Like that? Yes?
Just like that.
You hear them? No way. Are you going to allow this?
This is Mama Africa. She loves cooking, especially intercontinental.
When can I come and have some Chinese rice?
Anytime you feel like.
Oh, see, I just said in my bowl. You eat more than Chinese rice. Name something a man would do if his girlfriend suddenly wanted a non-sexual relationship. Tessie.
Take her out.
Break up.
You would agree to it. Speaking from experience.
Okay, you're speaking from experience. Yeah. Is the brother here?
No.
Are you still together? You are still together? God bless you, brother. Who's your favorite musician?
I like Dido.
Oh, close my life is falling. And I don't get in my way out to find that you're very me. Tessie, I would love to leave my toxic relationship, but
because of the other room.
What's the other room?
L'amour.
L'amour. Okay, you are speaking French. She give me le François Lemieux. Hey. Okay, she said Lemieux is her other room. Survey says.
Yeah.
Name something you would do if you finish using the toilet and there's no tissue paper.
Go like that.
Use
my on this.
Use the word.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
I don't know what your dream is. To live your dream requires unwavering passion. But if your passion burns true, you will defy the skeptics.
And captivate countless souls.
It's 1,000% yes.
The world will never be the same.
That is how you do it.
Because you dared to dream.
This is Nigerian Idol.
Catch the premiere of Nigerian Idol Season 9, starting 21st of April, 7 p.m. West African time. Nigerian Idol, exclusive to DSTV and GoTV.
Nigerian Idol is proudly sponsored by Techno, Stop at Nothing, and Biggie for every moment.
All right, this is still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA, and to begin our conversation on the new minimum wage saga. Way out. Here's a background report put together by our correspondent Joseph Otsen.
The Nigerian Constitution stipulates a review of the national minimum wage every 5 years. The last review was in 2019, from 18,000 naira to 30,000 naira. With the current national minimum wage due this year, the organized labor has been relentless in pushing for a new national minimum wage, and government at the federal and state levels have initiated moves in this direction. Both Edo and Lagos state governments have announced its 70,000 naira state minimum wage. On its own part, the federal government inaugurated a 37-member tripartite committee on national minimum wage, chaired by Bukagoni Aji, a former head of service of the Federation. The committee is also made up of representatives from relevant government organizations, the organized labor, and the organized private sector.
The minimum wage represents the least amount of compensation an employee should receive for their labor, and as such, it should be rooted in social justice and equity. I hope that the results of your deliberations will be consensual and acceptable to all parties involved. The government's decision, following the consideration of your final recommendations, will be presented as an executive bill to the National Assembly.
Negotiations have been on, where government takes a look at the national income and provision of safety nets for all Nigerians, especially the most vulnerable, before taking a stand. The organized labor is keen on what is sustainable for the Nigerian workers with current economic realities. But a few days ago, the organized labor dumped the minimum wage negotiation meeting, blaming the government and the organized private sector of presenting unreasonable proposals. It says the government offer of 48,000 naira and the 54,000 naira the organized private sector proposed completely fell short of the 615,000 naira the workers are demanding.
Okay, you want us to now say there will be no medical allowance, or there will be no housing, or there will be no transport. So they have not even provided the basis. You just say 48, and we say, what is this 48 for? And they are not ready to talk.
During the 2024 International Workers' Day celebration, the union leaders gave government up to May 31st to make an acceptable pronouncement on the new national minimum wage or face industrial action, even as the tripartite committee has agreed to resume negotiation. It seems time is running out with less than 2 weeks to the deadline. The question is, how fast will the negotiation parties shift ground to come up with a reasonable and acceptable amount that will meet the needs and aspirations of Nigerian workers? And not to forget, President Bola Tinubu has on many occasions promised Nigerian workers a national living wage. This was re-echoed by the Vice President Kashim Shettima on May 1st. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will dig into the new national minimum wage saga and profile a balance on what should be acceptable to all.
Thank you, Joseph, for that background report. And to find a balance or solution to the challenge that we have concerning the minimum wage saga, we have in our studio guests that are seated here. And let me start with Comrade Isa Aremu, Director General, Michael Imodu National Institute of Labor Studies. Comrade, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria again.
It's a pleasure, and good morning, Nigerians.
Always a pleasure to have you join us. Also joining us in the studio this morning is Wale Smart Oyerinde. He's the Director, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, and he's also leading the private team at the committee and also a member of the tripartite committee. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
All right.
Also here in the studio to talk about the new minimum wage is an economist, Yeshua Aliyu. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's begin our conversation this morning by looking at the current minimum wage. Maybe I'll start with Mr. Smart Oyerinde. What is the minimum wage now, and what is the labor clamoring for?
Well, thank you for having us once again, and it's also nice to be back here. I think it's very important that we put the whole conversation in context, because really there's quite a lot of misinformation that is out there, and when you pander to misinformation for a long time, it starts sounding like the truth, and it's very important that we clear that. What we have currently is 30,000, which is the national minimum wage. And I want to go into the context and to the scope of what is the wage or what is the salary, because there are two different contexts, And also what is a minimum wage and what is a living wage. They are both different concepts. And the moment we don't clarify that from the beginning of our conversation, then we start unconsciously taking both contexts to be the same thing. So currently we have the 30,000, which is the national minimum wage, which was agreed in 2019 by the tripartite. It was a long negotiation, a long protracted negotiation in 2018 to 2099. And eventually the committee came up with 30,000, although one or two stakeholders affirmed then that look, they cannot meet up with 30,000. But because it was a consensus and the committee needed to wrap up its work, make a recommendation to the president, 30,000 was agreed, which was due for implementation. Then the law was amended, and then we had the 2019 National Minimum Wage Act, which to a large extent, apart from some few states that were not implemented, which was in operation until last year. It was supposed to end this year in April, and we are supposed to commence negotiation for a new national minimum wage, which we started through the inauguration of the committee in January by the vice president. So for us, it's 30,000. Is it due for review? Absolutely. Is 30,000 still relevant? Is it still, does it still meet the needs, the current needs? Absolutely not. What exactly should the figure be? There are a lot of variables to it. It's not a 2 plus 2 equals 4 kind of conversation. But a lot of variables that comes into the issue of exactly how do we arrive at that minimum wage. Just like a woman that wants to cook a pot of soup, you bring in so many condiments, and you have to create a balance. The quantity of salt, the quantity of water, the quantity of Maggi. You have to ensure you get a balance. If you don't get that balance, the soup will probably be messed up. So what the committee is currently doing, I think the key work of the committee is to arrive at that balance of arriving at a minimum wage that is fair, a minimum wage that is affordable, and a minimum wage that guarantees sustainability of enterprises. Those are the issues.
What are the variables that they are considering now concerning arriving at what is appropriate, let's say?
Now, the concept of the national minimum wage itself is not our concept. It's a global concept.
It is. Yeah.
So we subscribe to the convention, as a nation, the convention that propped up the issue of national minimum wage. That's Convention 131 of the ILO. And we're a very strong constituent of the ILO. And Convention 131 specified certain conditionalities. So you must look at the needs of workers and their families. You must look at the economic situation, because the foundation basically of what you get and the value of what you get rests on the economic situation. If the economy is booming, then your 1 naira can probably buy you a lot more goods. If the economy is not doing so well, your 1,000 naira might not buy you much. So the foundation basically is the economic situation. Then you must look at the sustainability of enterprises. It must be sustainable. You must bring in the variable of the cost of living. You must bring in productivity. So, and all these variables, to different stakeholders, they mean different things. To the worker or to the household, inflation rate means something. To the business, interest rate means something else. To the business, cost of forex means something else. To the worker, cost of living means something else. To the government, it means something else. So the three parties, the social partners as we call them, or the tripartite, must now bring in their whole variables, their whole issues into the table, and then that is when the negotiation starts. So you view the whole context from my perspective, I view the whole context from your perspective, and then we all agree, yes, in view of this current situation, of the economic situation, the needs of workers, and the need for sustainability of enterprises. Okay, this is what the minimum wage should be like. And that conversation, I think, will start today at the committee level.
It's not like it's starting, it's continuing after Labour walked out of the initial...
Not the walkout. I think we should also put it in proper perspective.
Okay.
Because the plan, or the agenda, the committee is also, I think, is composed of very respected individuals, both from Labour, the employers, government, and other stakeholders. And each party was to submit its own proposal. So Labour submitted its own proposal, which is valid to the extent of Labour's reality. 615,000, that's already in the news. Employers submitted their own proposal of 54,000, which is also valid to the extent of the employer's realities. You can't question that. And government submitted its own proposal, which was 48,000, which probably is valid to the extent of government's realities. Now, the next push is to start the negotiation proper. After everybody have submitted their bids, is now to start the negotiation or the review of those bids.
Mr. Oyemide, as a member of this tripartite committee, and from what you have said, the variables that needs to be put in place before you come up with a minimum wage, do you think that 54,000 naira on the part of the private sector and 48,000 on the part of government is fair and affordable, and if you like, meets the present realities?
You know, the conversation on what is affordable, what is not affordable, it's basically being influenced really by the negotiation. And whatever, you pardon me, whatever will be done at the chambers of the committee, you know, I might not be disposed to discuss it on here because it's still, the committee is still meeting today, and to be disrespectful of me to the committee, to issues that should be handled on the table to come to the press and start giving issues on it. So, but for the private sector, you know, what we share, because it's also in the press, you know, a private business, an average business, you know, currently pays over 60 different taxes, levies, and fees across the 3 states of government. You know, we have other payments that you make that are not that are probably illegal and under the table because your business just have to continue. You have proliferation of bills. There's already at the National Assembly, they're also requesting an average business to pay 1%, 5% of profit after tax or profit before tax. Then we have the issue of the interest rate. You know, a business that collected a credit at 10% interest rate 1 year ago is now having to pay over 25% on interest rate. Then how does the business survive? You know, I think there's this perception of demonizing the business, and we all forgot that sometimes few years ago during COVID, when nobody was moving and everything was down, businesses actually sustained employees, businesses paid salaries, businesses paid wages through that period of COVID, even when nobody was working. So the context of whether is okay or not okay, while it is dealt with at the level of the negotiation, is left for my reality. Those are the realities you have to look at. Okay. I can't sit down here and say Labour 615 is unrealistic. You know, it's beyond me to say that, because to the extent of Labour's realities, that is what they think is okay for an average worker. So everything comes, the whole context of the 65, of the 54, of the 48, of the 615,000 comes, we bring them to the table, and then we start trading, we start aligning and realigning positions.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your thoughts there. We'll come back to you, but let's come to Comrade. Comrade Aremu, you have been on both sides. You've been on Labour sides, agitating for minimum wage in the past and fighting, we no go agree, we no go agree, and all that. We've seen you carry placards and all that and protest. Now you're on the government side. You're speaking for the government and negotiating and all that. Now, how can this issue be resolved between Labour and government? I mean, you've seen both sides. We're looking for a way out now. So what do you think should be done? What are they considering the variables now?
Thank you once again. Let me say good morning. And I can say that two of you deserve your minimum pay.
Yes.
Given what it takes for you to come to studio every morning.
Or living
wage. I think all of us were part of this because we all live on salaries. You know. I think there is a consensus now that we have a crisis of pay, of compensation, precisely because the pay of workers can hardly, give them good living conditions, which can help them to be productive in the world of work. But as Mr. Smart put it, I think it's important to know what minimum wage is all about. And he has explained extensively. Minimum wage is a legally permissible minimum pay below which a worker will not fall. You can pay more, but it's the minimum, and it's also national, which means it cuts across both federal and the state. It also cuts across the sectors. And the philosophy of minimum pay is that labor creates wealth, and that for a country, you must have minimum pay for all the workers wherever they are, because there are some employers, even when they are making profit, if they have their way, they may be looking for slave labor that is not paid for. So you need to really give protection, for the working people. And Nigeria is very rich in this tradition. It's also constitutional. I mean, I listened to your background tape which you played, which shows that labor is on the exclusive list, just like land, capital, if you take other factors of production, so which means federal has the right to determine minimum standard for pay of the worker. Just like you have minimum hours of work, you have minimum age, because if you don't put minimum age, children may be forced to be engaged in child labor. So it's exactly the same thing with the pay. And this is the sixth cycle, if I can recall it, Mr. Smart, of the national minimum wage that we've had since 1981, when it started. We had a slight review in 1990, then year 2000, when Nigeria returned back to democracy under President Obasanjo, minimum wage moved from 250 in 1990 to 5,500. Legally, it's in the law. I think we have to underscore this, because it's the only pay. If you don't pay it as an employer, you can be sanctioned. There are sanctions, fines along that. Then 2010, it was reviewed to, I think under Jonathan, it was reviewed to 18,000. And the prevailing one now has been explained, which is currently 30,000 naira. So what I want to say briefly is that we have very rich tradition. Nigeria is very rich in this negotiating process. In fact, we are quite ahead of South Africa. South Africa just started minimum wage about 2 or 3 years ago, And even UK, United Kingdom, met us in it, 1989. So I think Nigeria is clear from the one that labor creates wealth. You need to have minimum pay to really protect them in the world of work. But the reality is also that most, especially federal service, in public service, federal public service, most workers earn more than that minimum pay. Am I communicating? In reality, even private sector, the same thing. Although it's a paradox also to realize that some states are not even, some of them are not paying, they are defaulting on pay the old 18,000 naira. No talk of the current one, but the bottom line is that minimum is the low below which, is the minimum below which nobody will pay. But there have been a lot of series of negotiations in which pay had already moved beyond that. If I can be practical now, public service, federal service, I think the average minimum pay is about 42,000. Because most who earn 30,000, they have already moved on, given the increase have taken place. So we have to understand this, because that's the only pay component that will be in the law. And not only that, it excludes employers like small, medium enterprises that do not employ up to 50. I think we have to get this one clear, 50 employees. Well, although Labour has been arguing that we need to lower the numbers further, because many workers are now in formal sector who need the protection. Because the idea of minimum wage is not to chase small producers, enterprises out of business. So you also, because it's cost item for them in production. But the reality today is that 2019, when we had this minimum wage, I don't know, depending on state rate you use, it was about $90 to $100. Today, 30,000. Me and you know what it means. It's barely $30 to $40. I was also trying to check some of the numbers. In 2019, inflation rate was hovering between 12 and 15%. Today, official inflation rate is about 33.45%. Official rate. So it is clear that workers who live on that pay, even those a little bit adjusted for, I mean, they are certainly living in poverty. You talk of income poverty. And I think there's a consensus of that. I'm happy from your tape. Federal government has realized that this is no more sustainable. There is need for us to review it. And the current minimum wage committee is the most expansive, in history. It's about 37 members. I hope I got it right. Yeah. You have 6 governors. You have organized private sector. Of course, you have organized labor, ably led by NSC and TUC. So I have no doubt in my mind that the way we did it before, through collective bargaining over this CCS cycle, this will also be done. But the reality is that all the parties, stakeholders, they are under pressure because we are negotiating in a very difficult time. There's economic crisis, so if we are negotiating in a period of adversity as we have it here, I pity my colleagues in the labor movement, because the pressure is on them by the workers who elected them. But being a democratic organization, too, they must report back to their own members. I also know government has its own challenges, revenue flow, and all sorts, and of course, employers of labor. I mean, Mr. Smart is here. We tell you the cost of doing business is also prohibitive. But that now means that since all of us are in the same boat, we need solidarity, we need understanding, and that requires compromises. Proposal is not the same thing as an agreement. There will be proposal, there will be counter proposal, and I'm happy my comrades are back to the meeting today. I mean, everybody knew that 48.
It's laughable.
Anyway, not just laughing, but it can hardly, fly in the true sense of the word. But so also, some people will also argue that 615.
By the way, I was going 650,000 naira labor is asking for. You've seen the details. Do you think that, although some have said it's unrealistic, like you were about to say, but do you think that it meets the reality of the Nigerian worker today?
When you talk of the reality, I think we can even say reality is that any worker can get more than 615. If he gets it or she gets it, she will use the money. But the negotiation process also goes beyond your own needs and requirements of the worker. I mean, that's very primary because it's for the workers who hand the pay. Cost of living, cost of rent, accommodation, transportation. So you can fault some of those arguments that labor has already given, the breakdown. And I just had that zero talking of even you can't ignore health, you can't ignore education for the workers. So it's clear. But that's from the point of view of the workers. The negotiation itself is tripartite because it has to be collective. Now, you also have to go beyond that to talk of who pays. Am I communicating? That's where affordability comes in. The revenue, sustainability of pay. And if you pay even 1 million naira, so how many number of workers? Don't also forget it's a cost item. I think we also have to have a rate that can protect jobs, that is sustainable. And that's why nothing is going to be obtained in this negotiation unless it's negotiated. Let me put it that way.
Nothing will be obtained.
Yeah, the ideal pay, the ideal
is negotiated.
Settlement must be negotiated. So government will come with its own offer. Labor will come with its offer. Of course, the employers of labor will also have to come with their own offer. And in the process, there will be some level of compromises. And I've no doubt in my mind. Don't forget, even when we negotiated 18,000, our proposal at that time was 96,000. I was deeply involved in that one in 2010, but we settled eventually for 18,000. I'm talking of 2010 or thereabout. So the proposal is already there, and I'm happy that everybody has returned back to negotiation process today. But we have to also look at the trend. There's a lot of, I've given you the numbers now. look at the inflation rate, we look at the value of the currency, since we did it last time. Then we can even look at percentage increases over the years.
Okay.
120, 5,500. Let me take that one because that's legally backed by the Act of Parliament. Then 18,000. We can do the calculation. Then now 30,000.
30,000.
Now, what would be realistic that we can jump to? But beyond the mathematics, you must also look at the economics of it.
Okay.
You have to look at the pay, the rate that will sustain jobs, that will not lead to jobs. But on the whole, let me once again recap. Minimum wage would be in the law. If you don't pay it, employers can be sanctioned. So what can you put there? Am I communicating?
Yes, you are.
You can't say, because I know the pay now of an average director in the public service, possibly about 650. And so are you going to say that would be in the law? And if federal government doesn't pay you, federal government, am I communicating? So minimum wage is different from living wage. Minimum wage, once it's settled, we can now do consequential adjustment through a series of negotiations that can lead to living wage.
Okay.
So in summary, I think the bottom line is that all the parties have to know that this is just the minimum, below which nobody will pay, but you can pay more through other process of negotiation with different sector workers that you have.
Okay.
Am I communicating? And that nothing will be obtained unless it's negotiated through process of social dialogue and collective bargaining.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, comrade, for your contribution there. Now let's bring in the economist, Mr. Ali, right now. Let's look at the economic implication of all these negotiations that is ongoing now, because we look at how affordable, what is going to be the impact on the economy. The funds, are they readily available? Because that's one of the things that government will say, we don't have the fund, we don't have this, we don't have that. So what do you think is the way out when negotiating for this minimum wage?
In economics, the fundamental problem is what, when, and how. What is minimum wage? How are you going to pay minimum wage? When is the effective date for the payment of minimum wage? That is established by economics. Then it comes to labor economics. What are the fundamental issues challenging a worker? First is hours of work. 2, work environment. 3, like rightly pointed out by Vice President, compensation for sacrificing hours to work to achieve what? An output. That output is productivity. What is the level of productivity today from the government side, from the private sector, and for the economy? And what is the GDP growth rate as attributed by the contribution of the workforce? These are fundamentals. So now coming to understand wage determination, wage review, wage policies, wages implementation, you now come to understand what are the policies on ground and what are the economic variables that influence production first. Now, what is the production possibilities in an economy using different economic theories, for instance? Now, in my own opinion, of course, yes. You look at history from 1981 to presently 2024. It's about 43 years. Now, even if you are paying 1,000 naira per annum, now you resolve to 43,000 naira as adjusted sequentially for a period of 43. Now, but at the end, you look at what determines production in an economy and what determines consumption. Income is one. Now, an average income now has to be classified among income groupings. Now, who are salary earners? A president, commander-in-chief is a salary earner. How much is he earning? Now, what are the components that will require a president to earn salary and discharge responsibility because he's a commander-in-chief? Now it comes to how much the commanders, the service chiefs, how much are they earning for us to be secured? Because the essence of paying taxes in the first place is to secure the economic environment for everybody to thrive, for the economy to thrive, for people to live in peace and harmony. So when you begin to understand and translate the progression and understanding who are salary earners, from the president to the governors to the senators to the public servant to those in the private sector, you now realize what is the standard of their living in the first instance. Now this is on a relative basis. What is the standard of life of a president under that salary structure at a particular time? Now, what is also the economic situation of a private man who is not earning wages or salary, but is taking from out from his investment, probably from the profit? Now, what is the profit? Like rightly pointed by Mr. Smart, profit, you pay taxes either before or after, or you pay taxes through the businesses. And who are those who are paying taxes to pay salaries and wages in an economy? You have to also understand that those who are paying taxes and wages pays differently on a relative basis. For instance, if you take pay as you earn, the higher the salary, the higher the tax rate going to government. So in the first instance, if government is paying 42,000 and another government, probably federal, is paying 42 and state is paying 78, then definitely state government will earn more revenue from adjustment of wage bill. But for the negotiation, compromises and standard has to be set. In 1973, when Naira was introduced, this wage that was obtainable was 18 Naira. Now, after 40 years, the wage rate is 18,000. So on percentage basis, you look at, but what was the income of the state? What was the income as at 1973, even with the oil boom? And what was the income in 2011, when there was also Gulf War and there was income to the state? So in my own opinion, compromises that will arrive at has to do with certain economic indices. It may not just be economic realities, because under economic realities, translating dollar rate to pay minimum wage in Nigeria, what if the rate improves tomorrow? The exchange rate improves downward against the US dollar, because that is the standard. What if, for instance, today is 1,400 Naira to a single dollar? What of next month if it is 800 to $1? Are you going to review the salary back?
What if it increases to 2,000 Naira?
No, what I'm trying to say is this. There are two probabilities. One, today, the current rate, 1,400 Naira to a single dollar, and you are fixing a wage today at 42,000, looking on many considerations. Then what is the probability that in December same year, if the rate, exchange rate, is now reduced, Naira appreciate to 800,000, if you are using it as a basis, are you going to reduce the salaries that you pay by law?
I guess that's why. I guess that is why Comrade Aremu said, you know, these negotiations must go beyond needs.
Yes.
Compromise must come in.
Yeah.
And other variables too must be considered.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is the point I'm trying to bring. For Comrade Smart representing private sector, the organized labor representing Nigerian workers, and governors representing policymakers, and the federal government delegation representing the federal government. It is well established by all standard by the president-elect in 2003 proposing a living wage. The Speaker House of Representatives understood the economic scenario and also proposed a living wage. Up to now, in this negotiation, there is no any advancement of negotiation of what is called living wage. We are.
Well, I think.
Yeah.
I need to jump in before.
Okay.
You know, I think it's part of the confusion we just try and avoid.
That conceptual clarification.
Where we are now is as a result of those confusion.
Yes.
And I also share the dynamics in the private sector, which is a model that works, and that puts us in a position where we can beat our chest and say, yes, this is how far we've done, notwithstanding the limitations of the private sector. Now, on the issue of if the variables changes in between,
that has always been.
Now in the private sector, you know, we have NECA has up to close to 30 affiliates. Those are industrial affiliates. Each sector have their own labor union, and then the corresponding employers federation. So all the employers federations belong to NECA, and most of those industrial unions, so all of them also belong to NLC-TUC. Now, at the private sector level, you know, collective bargaining goes on every 2 years or 3 years. And also, some industries, it goes on every year. Some are in maritime, they do sometimes 1 year negotiation. Some of the oil and gas industries, they do 1 year negotiation. Now, wages, salaries, terms and conditions of employment, they are negotiated on those bases at that sectoral level every 2 years. So there's a high potential that salaries are reviewed every 2 years. There's a high potential because most of those sectors also have their minimum wage that is far above, without quoting figures, but far above the 30,000 that we're currently talking about. So in the private sector is ahead of the whole conversation and the whole game. And now, Comrade President said, Comrade DGs.
Prof has given you a comrade. I think you call him a comrade smart.
Comrade DG said, he mentioned something about the concept of the minimum wage, and we should not lose sight of it. It's the minimum below which nobody should pay. It is basically meant for the most vulnerable. I said, look, whatever happens, nobody should pay below this level because it's criminal.
Okay, I want to say something. When you say nobody should pay below, are you talking about the megats, the drivers? Because that is the everybody.
Yeah.
Because can everybody? I mean, every employer, you know, afford to pay that minimum? That because if you say, okay, let's say 100,000 for minimum wage now agreed. Will you be able to pay maybe your gate man 100,000 naira per
there
month?
is formal and informal sector.
Even the exceptions, you know, the law is so robust that it creates exceptions.
Because you have to look at, you know, across board now.
Absolutely. There are exceptions in the law. Does it look for employers employing less than this figure or whose turnover, annual turnover is less than this threshold, those are excused from paying. Because, come of it, an employer is earning his turnover, annual turnover, basically, let's say it's 200 million. And by the time, and those are basically SMEs, the nano enterprises, the micro enterprises. By the time you look at the overall, the total overhead of those businesses, then you realize that burdening them with whatever you come up with as agreed, you know, might not lead to job creation. And he mentioned something that's very fundamental also. And something we have missed, you know, I would, whether it was circumstantial, whether it was an oversight from all social partners. I think our minimum wage negotiation doesn't point us to a definitive national agenda. Are we negotiating to promote job creation? Are we negotiating to drive entrepreneurship? are we negotiating to promote, to deal with the issue of poverty?
Fighting
If
poverty.
we don't deal with what exactly is our purpose, we will limit the whole conversation to the Naira and Kobo.
Yeah.
And then everybody will go, we agree on the Naira and Kobo component of it, everybody will go earn their wages, then life continues. And that is the gap that we've not really identified. What exactly is the purpose of our gathering to negotiate? What national problem, what national issue exactly are we trying to challenge?
Poverty, if you want to go by what the president has said, talking about a living wage, you know, it goes to show that the wage at the moment cannot, you know, sustain the Nigerian worker.
And we do respect. We do respect.
So when the president says a living wage, and then the workers talking about salary that is suffocating, or if you like, you know, that's, I mean, cannot take them to work and bring them back. We're talking about poverty, a situation whereby a Nigerian worker works for a certain period of time and is able to live life well. Not extremely well, but just be able to live. Now, that would lead me to my next question. You know, because you're talking about figures on the table, the employer, other things that you need to do, and all of that. But come to think about it, if the worker is not properly paid, and the employer has to deal with all these other issues, neglecting that worker, how would that promote, if you like, the business environment? A situation whereby workers are dying, workers are ill, workers cannot give their children good education. How does that promote the economy?
And if the business does not survive, so where will the worker work?
No, but the business...
No, it's a flip side. If the business is not sustainable, then where will the worker work?
So are you saying that businesses would not survive if they pay their workers properly?
No. So this relationship, the relationship between the worker, you know, and the employer, is mutually symbiotic. You must definitely create a balance between the survival of the business and what the worker has.
Good.
Is the analogy of the, I think I used this analogy during the National Labour Advisory Council meeting. Is the analogy of the rope and the bed. If the rope is not strong, the bird cannot perch and stay conveniently. So the relationship between the worker and the business is symbiotic in such a way that even with the advent of AI, you still cannot do without the workers. And even with the advent of whatever we call it, the worker also cannot do with the business. So the focus of the business, and as we have demonstrated in the private sector, and the records are there to show, that the private sector has remained the most responsive in the context of employers in this country. And we cannot take that away from the private sector. In the context of the wages, as I mentioned, just before I allow you, in the context of the current minimum wage, while the minimum wage is 30,000, employers are currently paying in the private sector, are currently paying far above that. Above 30,000, which we should not take away. And in fact, commend the private sector for leading the charge.
All right, Mr. Oyerinde, you seem to be, taking the private sector away from this whole conversation as being, above board in this regard. But I want to talk about government. He's saying that private sector, they're having a symbiotic relationship with their workers. Would you say that of government and the worker is parasitic at the moment, considering what they earn? Condition of service and all of that, and then the figure being put on the table at the moment. What would you expect government to do? Because now, another side to that question, because while the private sector is boasting of better pay, in the government sector, you find some agencies of governments who earn far above the 30,000 naira, and there are others who are struggling. Still, even in the same federal civil service, we're not talking about states now where some people are still paying 18,000 naira or less. We're talking about federal government, a situation whereby the salary across different agencies and ministries or parastatals is different. Some are suffering while others are living large. What's the way out?
I think government has talked about this issue of harmonization of salaries in the civil service and all that. So maybe you should just
Well, I think that's why our discussion is very, very healthy because, at the root of Nigeria's economic recovery should be the issue of compensation for the working men and women, workers generally. And I think it's time for us to treat wage issue like any other microeconomic issues, as we are discussing GDP, inflation, and we should be able to see at a glance what is the average pay of the workers in the country, because it's important. I mean, I've argued that Nigeria needs wage-led economic recovery, and I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also says so, you know, in its, both as a candidate and later on when he became a president, that it's even good economics for you to pay your workers very well, because workers' pay goes to buy basic goods and services. You know, you can't run this economy if there's no effective demand that is backed up by pay. In fact, the crisis we're having is also a crisis of low purchasing power.
Yeah.
You know, so if you pay workers very well, private sector, it goes to buy the goods that Smart and Co produce.
The manufacturers
they pay rent,
complaining right
and even
now.
the states, you know, and I think the state governors have to be well informed that, you know, even the civil service, which is the core of their economy, they can't run their states if they don't pay them very well, and on time too. You know, because some of the default, the poverty level in the state will not be unless you pay people very well. So I think it is clear that we can't debate whether there's need for improvement in this pay. But back to your question, I also want to say that we need to differentiate minimum pay, I've been saying so, from the living pay. You know, minimum pay, I think we have a consensus now. Yeah. That is the one below which nobody will pay, and it's open to periodic negotiation. In fact, the point Prof tried to address, I think, about volatility, you know, of rates, inflation, and co. Some other countries have moved on to make sure minimum wage, you don't even need this 5-year cycle. And I hope during this negotiation you will look at the time. You know, this waiting for 5 years, you know, things have really changed for wars. You don't need that. We can be reviewing this periodically. UK, for instance, they do so now every year, 1st of April. In fact, minimum wage just moved in UK now from £10 per hour, you know, to £14. You know, of course, in United States, you know, Joe Biden also tried to increase minimum pay. So it's not done this dramatized way. It's just for the vulnerables, that minimum pay. But now, the struggle for living wage must be continuous every other day, every other year, through the process of collective bargaining. And I think I've seen the trend also in public service. I think we should have the numbers. Maybe in Salary and Wages Commission will let us know what is going on. Don't forget last year, there was 40% increase in core civil service pay. Early this in fact, just last month, we have some, you know, increase of 25-30% on different kind of salary structure that have been going on. So these have taken place through the process of collective bargaining that is now happening in public sector. That's what we should encourage, you know. So the point I would also raise is that this minimum wage is just the one that we must get right at the minimum level. Now, after the minimum wage negotiation, you know, there will be consequential adjustment. People will look at relativity. Talking of the relativity you talk about, there will be negotiation between the unions such a way that it will impact on the existing salary structure. You know, but even if minimum wage is not being reviewed, it is the duty of government, state government, together with their unions, with the that represent the workers, to have periodic review of the wages of their workers to reflect the prevailing cost of living, to also reflect productivity, because that's also very important. And that's how we have the unions. I mean, I used to be in textile very well. We virtually review wages every 2 years. You know, I will have the process of collective bargaining, so which normally goes beyond the prevailing national minimum wage, you know. So you don't need to wait for that 5-year cycle, and that's why the private sector experience could be brought into bear. But even though Mr. Smart talks about private sector, but I'm also not too much. There are still some people who are not organized, who are in private sector, who still pay workers less than what is obtainable.
Well,
and this is why government has that responsibility to make sure that we enforce the law.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Let me ask Professor Aliyu now.
Mala Aliyu.
Mala. All right. So we're still talking about this issue of minimum wage. How can we, you know, arrive at a situation where we get a minimum wage that will help in the reduction of poverty, you understand, in the country, and that would ginger economic growth for this country?
It is when all the parties involved look at the market scenario and understand the market scenario. The market is hit around. And once you are faced with a problem of a market that is contestable, prices can change anytime because investors are looking for abnormal profit and they don't care. You can hear minimum wage, but you can never hear minimum profit. And that is why the concept of normal profit and abnormal profit will never be explained by investors. You will just see them becoming billionaires. And it left to them, they will pay low wages because they want to maintain the standard. Remember, Apple, big corporations, after taking over, they will now review work policies, reduction of workforce. But before the transition, they are already making abnormal profit. Now, what I want comrades must to understand in the context of having a minimum wage is to increase income. When you increase income, you increase consumption. Hixian analysis always reveal how consumer consumes using a special income. You cannot consume without an income. Autonomous consumers are too much in Nigerian economy. That is why our growth process is too slow. And once you don't have so much people with a friendly income that can be consuming, definitely the stock in the market will be there. But however, like I said in the initials, we must be understanding what, when, and how. It is quite agreed that the living wage, the take-home pay, cannot take workers home. And they are paying many direct taxes and indirect taxes in consuming whatever there is in the market. And that is why they are poor. The purchasing power parity, if you compare it with the wage rate that is obtainable, for instance, compare South Africa and Nigeria, you realize that South Africa has a bigger advantage because they have better income groupings that are consuming what is produced in South Africa and outside. But in Nigeria, people are left with a single meal per day and not nutritious. Why? Because there is no income. Workers' productivity, as rightly pointed by Comrade Arimu, is the ultimate. Whatever you are going to assess in labor economics is related to output. And that output has to do with workers' welfare. No matter how you try to define efficiency in the work process, in the production process, wage and salaries must be understood. And in my context, how best we can achieve this, first to understand that 615,000 is not realistic looking at the income of the state, looking at the income of all operational businesses in Nigeria, 615,000 per minimum. Let me give just a scenario. We have, for instance, you have a million workforce, 1 million workforce on different grade levels. This, sometimes when 615 is measured, you assume you are paying a category.
That's the least.
Sometimes psychology will tell you that you are assuming to pay about 5 or 10 people.
All right, because of time, Mr. Lee, I think we'll have to leave that on that. You 615,000 in your view, not realistic. 48,000 on the part of the workers is also laughable, like Comrade said earlier. But let's quickly come to you because we're running out of time, Mr. Oyerinde. Of course, I can't let you leave without asking this question about the leaked memo for this tripartite committee asking for 1 billion naira for its sittings. So just give us some form of clarification about that.
In 60 seconds.
And then tell us, what should workers expect at the end of the negotiation?
Well, thank God is the prof that says 615 is not realistic. I didn't say that. It says so. So on the leaked memo, I think there was a clarification by the secretariat based on the last work of the committee in 2019. I'm just telling you what they told us. The last work of the committee in 2019 The committee spent close to a year, negotiating, and I think they were all housed in, was it Transcorp or Nikon Nuga, and the allowances, the accommodation, the sitting allowance of the committee then, that was what I think stretched to that kind of figure. So I think somebody just adjusted those
figures,
the figures of that time, and then they represented. I think I'm not. I can't.
No,
say,
but you remember, you should be able to tell us exactly.
But to the extent of now, the private sector team, we've not collected ₦1 million as sitting allowance.
Okay, thank you very much.
So
because of time.
I'm sorry, if you permit me.
So what should workers expect at the end of the day?
No, as comrades have said, the private sector is open. We know we can achieve more with negotiation. We just have to continue to negotiate until we all arrive at that figure that is a consensus amongst all of us. And the private sector is willing, and we've always played the big brothers role in successive negotiations, and we're also willing to continue to play that role in this negotiation.
Thank you very much. Okay, Comrade Daremu, just in 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. I think,
way out.
as I've said before, this negotiation in a challenging time, so I can understand the pressure on all the stakeholders, but we're also having a government that is quite committed to review of the minimum wage. Don't forget, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, after the removal of subsidy, had presidential wage award, of I think 35,000 for 6 months. So this government is converted. They've gotten a tripartite committee, very expansive one, and I think my comrades in the organized labor, they're also committed to defense of the workers. I've no doubt in my mind that just the way we did the previous negotiation, there will be wise outcomes.
There will be wise outcome from this negotiation. And the wise outcomes are the outcomes that are negotiated. Thank you.
And not suffocating.
Compromises and not suffocating. The one that we address, I think you raised very good point, 3 points, about what is the objective of this minimum wage negotiation.
Okay, Malam.
To fight income poverty, to sustain jobs, and also sustainable enterprises.
Malam,
I'm just expecting this committee to make history and to make Nigerians happy by coming up with a friendly rate that will be acceptable and for the economy, and it will also be celebrated and will now see growth level in it.
Thank you so much. That's a fine point to leave the conversation. A friendly wage, of course, is what every worker expects at the end of the day. Many thanks, Comrade Isa Aremu, Director General Michael Imodu, National Institute of Labour Studies. Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation. Wale Smart Oyerinde, Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, and I'm also a member of the Tripartite Committee. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Yushua Aliyu, economist, thank you once again for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
Of course, like I always mention, when labor leaders on the field and labor leaders out of the field are different people. If I bring your clips when you're on the field, it's different.
Always one.
Always a comrade. Thank you so much.
I'm laboring here.
All right, thank you.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the second part of the conversation. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise and land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like mountain, we swear to God, we stand down in demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Education is unique, we have more than the solution. We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity, with more than carry life. We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davis. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
but an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress. Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
You're welcome back. Still on to Good Morning Nigeria, and we are starting our second conversation for this morning, which is building capacity in public speaking. Larry.
All right, talking about building capacity, we have members of the Toastmasters with us, and this organization was founded in October 1924, has its headquarters in Colorado, United States, and Toastmasters International is actually a non-profit education organization that helps people to develop confidence, public speaking, and leadership skills through a worldwide network of clubs that meet online and in person. And we have joining us here to discuss, about the Toastmasters, what they've been doing and how far they can take Nigeria. We have Nadine Mbikina, DTM, District Director, Toastmasters International, District 94. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming us.
Also here is DTM Patrick Oluyide, the past District Director and District Director, Toastmasters International. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's start with DTM Oluyide now. I mean, when we say Toastmasters, because not many people understand what Toastmasters is. And the first time I heard about Toastmasters is like, oh, toast. I mean, like toasting someone or... So to understand what exactly is Toastmasters all about.
Thank you very much for having us. Toastmasters, it's an organization that is dedicated to developing leadership skills.
Okay.
Now, it's so important that if you are a leader, you must have the ability to communicate effectively. And that's why communication and leadership are the two main focus of Toastmasters International.
Okay, you build communication. I mean, public speaking. What does public speaking has to do with, building capacity and all that?
So, if you look at the leadership in general, everywhere, you will notice that we are a lot attracted to leaders who have the capacity to reach us with their messages and communicate effectively. In fact, there's a law of leadership that's called the law of buying. It says people buy into the leader before they buy into the leader's vision.
Okay.
Which means you must have that ability to be able to sell your vision, because people can't buy what you're not selling to them. Every human being is selling.
Okay.
So the way Toastmasters is organized is a self-led learning, of course, with all of the support that you can get in the world. So we've got mentors, we've got a very huge online program that you can access, where you could actually go on your own journey and develop yourself. And sincerely, the path, they are so wild. So for instance, I'm looking at what you're doing now. We actually have Toastmasters programs for people who want to build their capacity in ability to anchor events, present events, and do quite a lot of other things. Do you want to facilitate a panel? Do you want to stand in front of an audience and make a presentation? Also, so all of those communication abilities are included. But you see, Toastmasters also has its own design to develop its leaders. Maybe later we'll come to talking about, so you've heard she's the district director. To become a district director, there's a path you have to trail.
Now, you're talking about developing leaders and being able to speak. You know, I'm thinking in my head, we have a lot of good public speakers who are not necessarily good leaders. So how does this organization, Toastmaster, help to, you know, breed people who can actually speak well and actually good leaders?
Yes, in fact, we are doing the two. Our training is not focused on communication. It's focused on so many essential skills that a leader needs. For example, listening. You know, listening, being confident. We are working on emotional intelligence and so much capacity that a leader today need to be a good leader. So we are not like focused on public speaking. We are an organization who work on public communication and leadership. So we build leaders.
Okay, you helped to train leaders as well so that they can be good leaders.
Yes, to train everyone. You know, everyone is a leader, in fact.
Okay.
Even a mom at home, she's a leader. So when we are talking about leader, it's not only being a public leader, it's being a leader whatever where you are.
So who qualifies to be a part of the Toastmasters?
To have an impact.
Who qualifies to be a part of the Toastmasters?
Everyone.
How much do I have to pay to be a part?
What's
the requirement?
The requirements, you have to have the majority, 18 years old. 18 years old, and you just have to pay your training. And as our organization, it's a non-profit organization, so it's you know, it's $100 to $120 a year. $120 a year. When some people pay a coach for 1 hour, $200. But in Toastmaster, with $120, you have a year of training. And you have the possibility to, because the way we train, we learn by doing. Okay. In Toastmaster, we meet like 2 times a month, and we train in front of real public. So you know, there's a lot of people who don't used to speak in front of public. When it's your profession, you're used to that. But there's some people who have never speak, you know, in front of public. And sometimes the first time will be when they will go for the job interview. When they will be in front of 4 or 5 people, and it will be like difficult for them. But in Toastmaster, you have the possibility 2 times a month to speak in front of public and to have a feedback on immediate feedback. When you finish speaking, they will give you feedback. This was good, you have to improve on this. And after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 speeches, you are a different person.
Okay, let's come to Olede now. Tell us, how did you come about Toastmasters? I mean, how did Toastmasters come about? What gave birth to Toastmasters?
So, Ralph Smedley was the founder of Toastmasters, and literally it's a member of, it was a Rotarian, and they were literally having a drink, and he began to think about the fact that there are so many people who needed to be able to communicate effectively, but they don't have the capacity, or the capacity has not been developed, because I will say that the potential is there for virtually everybody. So he came up with this with his friends, and they started the first meeting, as she mentioned, and from there this has become something that has spread across the whole world. So just today, Toastmasters is actually 100 years old, and there's virtually anywhere in the world that you get to that you wouldn't find a Toastmaster.
It's not as pronounced here in Nigeria. I mean, not many people are aware of Toastmasters in this country. Why?
Pronounced, maybe I say that's relative, but I think it's pronounced to some extent, but the room for growth and expansion is still there. So Toastmasters operates in clubs. A club has like a minimum of 20 members and it can expand. Nigeria has about 64 clubs. So you've got clubs in Abuja, you've got clubs in Lagos, you've got clubs in Port Harcourt, and a number of other places. So the expansion opportunity, it's actually there. And those who have been going through the program, they literally are reaping the benefits and they are manifesting
benefits. Besides being able to speak, what other benefits of being a part of this program?
I think where we need to start is to debunk the myth of who a leader is. Everybody has got the potential to be a leader. And looking at those who occupy leadership position as the only one to be called leaders actually makes mockery of what it means to be a leader. So for starters, you are leading yourself. And self-leadership is even the biggest and the most difficult type of leadership that you probably could face as an individual. And then she just mentioned a mom, a dad, everybody has something to do with leadership. And that's why Toastmasters is actually an organization that is open to all. So now when you're talking about benefits, as a leader, if you could develop the capacity of what it requires, so again, go back to organizations. People don't work for organizations, they work for managers. And you could see how some managers behave at work, how they mess up the life of the people who report to them, because they lack these basic skills. They lack this capacity to be able to lead people effectively. So if you begin to go through a program like this, it'll sure make you a better person. And when you become a better person, what other benefits are you looking?
Of course, everyone wants to become better, you know, wherever they find themselves. DTM Oluyide, you are Nigerian. Nadine seems not to be a Nigerian. I'll find out where she's from much later. But about the cost of this, of being a part of this program, you said how much? Could you say that again?
$120.
$120. And we just had a conversation about the minimum wage shortly before you walked in. Do you think that everyone can afford to be a part of this program, considering the cost?
Do you think everyone can afford to watch NTA?
Of course, yes, because it's
available. Because to be able to afford to watch NTA, you need a TV. Do you think, if by your statistics, if you have it right, do you think every Nigerian has the TV? No. So that's why whatever you find out there in the market, it could be for everybody, but everyone cannot afford it. Now, you also need to move to the next stage, that when you talk about someone affording something, is that a pain point for you? When you see something as a need, then affording it becomes I mean, people every Saturday buy this wear that you're wearing to actually to go for parties. Some of them even buy it on credit. So that's more important for them than paying up for a program that will develop you. I've been a member for over 12 years. And I can tell you, I've paid this money year in, year out, and I can see how this is benefiting every sphere of my life. So it's your focus. What's important for you shows how you dip your hand into your pocket and you put money towards what's important to you. So for me, it's important, but I will tell you, to move this nation forward, we don't have to start looking for that one person who will one day just become the leader and occupy that position. No, rather, we need to raise the leadership quotient of the populace.
Okay.
Do you have clubs? Do you have clubs in the hinterlands, or you just have in cities?
Yeah, we have in the hinterlands.
Okay, let's talk about the conference now. The Toastmasters is 100 years. Why are you bringing the conference to Nigeria?
In fact, we are from the District 94. District 94, it's Central Africa and West Africa. So we've got 24 countries in our district. And every year, we choose a country to go and have our conference. Last year, it was in Togo. The year before, it was in Senegal. And this year, it's in Nigeria. And as you say, Nigeria, it's a big country. The conference will be at the ECOWAS, which is going to welcome us. So, yeah.
So what's the calibers of people that you are expecting at the conference?
First of all Toastmasters of those 24 countries. And also we have some special guests who are coming, special guests from here from Nigeria, and also special guests from above.
What country are you from, Nadine?
I'm from the Congo, Brazzaville.
Okay.
So I'm French speaking.
You're French speaking.
Yes.
So in Toastmasters, you speak other languages or it's just English?
So the languages are open. So for instance, because of Toastmasters, I've been able to pick up French. I've actually, because I once led the district, and I had I had members that speak French. So I actually went to French school to pick up some French to be able to communicate effectively with them. That's an opportunity. That's a development.
Okay,
the same for me. I was not speaking English when I started Toastmaster.
Wow.
But to lead people, you have to be able to speak to them. So I've learned English to be able to lead our district, because our district we have French countries. So those French countries, they do Toastmaster 100% in French. They don't mean English, in fact. And English countries, Nigeria and Ghana, so they do Toastmaster in English.
Okay.
So to be able
Can we have Toastmaster in Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo?
Why not?
What are some of the events that we're supposed to, you're going to have during this conference?
So the conference is literally colored with a lot of highlights, things that will be happening. There will be learning sessions all through. And then we would also have some, of course, that includes the guest speakers. We have the Hall of Fame, where we celebrate those who have excelled in the course of the year. We would also use that opportunity to, elect the next set of leaders. So in Toastmasters, you serve just for a year. And there's a continuity, a succession planning in process. So those people will be confirmed, and other benefits, which I think the world can continue to learn that this is not my position. It belongs to helping the people move. So that's part of
the contest as well. Would that be contest as well?
There will be contests. There will be speech contests.
Nigeria contesting?
You mean speech?
Yes, speech contest.
No, I won't be contesting.
No,
yeah,
we have
there are members.
Okay, members.
So this is how it runs. From the clubs, which is the smallest unit, they would have contested, and then move on to areas, to division, and now to the district.
The date
so
of
they
the
will be
conference.
contesting.
Date.
The conference starts tomorrow.
And then anyone can attend, right?
Yes, anyone can attend.
Free of charge.
Tomorrow till what time?
Free.
How much is it?
Tomorrow till what time?
Tomorrow
till Saturday.
9 o'clock.
Okay, Saturday.
So what's the conference fee? You were about to tell me that.
The conference fee is 100 naira. 100 naira, yes.
100 naira?
Yes.
Wow.
100,000 naira, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the clarification. All right, so that will be all our time confirmators. Thank you so much, Nadine Mbakina, DTM District Director, Toastmasters International. Thank you for coming. And of course, we do appreciate DTM Patrick Oluyide, past District Director, Toastmasters International.
Thank you very much.
Really great talking to both of you. Of course, Nadine.
Thank you.
How long have you been in Nigeria now?
Oh, 2 days.
Oh, 2 days.
How is Nigeria?
Oh, it's great. It's not my first time. I was here in September.
Okay.
In Lagos, in Port Harcourt.
Do you have a favorite Nigerian dish already?
Yeah.
That will be what?
Yes.
All right, so
you have to sign up now.
Nigeria for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ian Ray John. Enjoy your Tuesday.
And I'm Ademola Ade. Thanks for joining us. Do have a lovely day.